We're talking about compliance right now. Compliance is one of those things that I always say it's the best of times or the worst of times. If you have it, it is just heaven. You can hear angels sing, and when you don't have it, you just have that sinking feeling like nothing is ever going to be good ever again, right? Is it just me? But that's how I feel. And what a difference if there was one thing that we could have compliance and proper compliance, because when we have compliance, we can teach anything. And when we have compliance, we can diminish or extinguish all challenging behaviors. It's amazing what we can do with compliance. And our life works easier. We can get grocery shopping done. Not to minimize other things, but when you have to put food on the table, getting the grocery shopping done is something that's essential, right? And if you have a child who's not compliant, getting in and out of the grocery store can be a nightmare. Okay, so we've talked a lot in the past weeks about gaining compliance and getting compliance with a small child, getting compliance with a child who's older. How important it is that we praise our kids for any compliance that we have, that we ask them to do things that they already want to do and then praise them because it turns it around. We have to get to the point where they're being reinforced. The principle number one in ABA, in order for any behavior to be maintained, it has to be reinforced. We have to make it rewarding for them to be compliant. So essential. We don't want to forget that. But sometimes after you've started to work on compliance and you've demonstrated to a child that being compliant is this really great thing and all the lights in the house come on and the party starts when you're compliant, sometimes we get into sticky wickets. And from time to time, we will, if we're working with a BCBA, a board certified behavior analyst, they will suggest working with something called a no prompt. Now, as I've said before, I am not an expert at ABA, so I'm going to give you the parent's perspective on a no prompt, and we'll see if we can't get somebody in the coming days that is a BCBA to talk. Maybe we'll have Angela talk with us a little bit later on today about no prompts. But basically what it is that when we ask a child to do something, and we already know that there's a measure of compliance, right? This is not something we do with kids that are just starting out on compliance. We have to see that they really start to get compliance before we put in the no prompt. But we want to move towards them being compliant really quickly, right? That we don't have to, we always talk in my house about being a first-time responder. I remember the first time I heard somebody say this to their child, they said, now remember, be a first-time responder. And I was saying, are we talking about police? Are we talking about firemen, responders? And they were saying, no, I want them to respond the first time I ask them to do something. Oh, how fabulous would that be? So no prompt is something that we can do to work towards that. So if I say to a child, let's say that the child has already demonstrated that they understand when I say come here, and we talked in previous weeks, if you didn't see those, go back and watch those episodes. But if child already has shown that they can master that if I say come here, they know how to come here, they do it on a regular basis, right? But we meet with obstinance sometimes, right? Non-compliance. So with a child who's a little further along, I might say to the child, come here, and the child does nothing. And I say no, and I offer what I asked for again. Come here. And the child still doesn't come, and I say no. Come here. And now I prompt and I show them exactly, and even though I know they already know how to do it, I'm going to physically or gesture or whatever I need, the least intrusive prompt that I need, but I'm going to say, come here, that's my prompt, and I that's my SD, and then I'm prompting physically, that's come here. And what it does is show the child that you are not going to get out of this by ignoring me, right? So that's one of the things that the no prompt does, and it gets us back on track. Now, do you just let it go then and go, okay, well, I manhandled them. You don't manhandle them. You very gently, if you need to, take their hands and bring them on. That's come here. But that isn't the end. Then you take the child and you put them right back where they were and give them the opportunity now to do it without the help. And you start again and say, come here. Now, sometimes the child will just come. And if they do, it's party time. I don't care what happened before, right? Because children, their ability to attach things to other things, it's pretty immediate. We're that way too, really. So if they come now and you didn't have to prompt them, it's a party. Remember, reward compliance, reward compliance, reward compliance. If they don't, once again, we say no. And we say, come here. And if they don't do it, no, come here. And we physically prompt them again. And we do this until the child does it on their own. All right. So when we're doing a no-no prompt, from a parent's perspective, there's some really important things to take into consideration. And again, I would like to say that it's best to institute a no-no prompt if you're working with a BCBA and they feel that it's time. You never want to do a no-no prompt with a child who's learning compliance. It's just, there are different things that you can do. You can prompt, but there's no point saying the no. I want to point out, and I've got some guidelines here, the no is more for us than it is for them. It's like a placeholder. It's a pause. It's an opportunity for the child to comply before we do something. It isn't a no. We're not scolding with a no. So it's got to be a very neutral no, and it's like taking a breath. But we are a very punishment-driven society, and I will say that as a parent, there's something about being able to say no, to acknowledge it didn't happen, that's very wonderful for me. It feels right, but I have to be very careful that it's a neutral no, not a no when I've told you 8 times, right? It's just a no, and then we ask again. So the no is more for us than anything else. Remember that the whole focus of the no-no prompt, the purpose of the no-no prompt, is to get to the point where we can offer reinforcement. So if the child isn't complying, we feel like, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to sit here and say, come here till the cows come home, or I'm going to drag them over? No. We're going to do the no-no prompt. No. Come here. No. Come here. No. And we bring them over. The focus is, though, that once they come over, that's coming over. And we give them praise, and maybe we give them a little ruffle of the hair, a little tickle, nothing huge, but some reinforcement, because we have to get to the reinforcement to remind them this train needs to be on this track. When you comply, it's all beautiful. I'm happy, you're happy, we are happy together, right? Now, the last one here, the last is, I think, one of the most important things, because the other are about intent. This is that you have to make sure, if you're going to enter into a no-no prompt time, notice that I said you're going to do it until the child does it on their own. You never want to be doing a no-no prompt where you are in a space where you must give up. So you have to ask yourself before you go into the no-no prompt, are you prepared mentally, physically, and emotionally? If you're at the grocery store and they are closing, and they, say last call, everybody has to bring up their stuff to the register and we're leaving, this is not the moment to do the no prompt, because it might take 10 minutes before the child can do it. And if you've got people standing around and making it difficult, this may not be the moment to do that. If you have to leave because you have to be at a meeting in 10 minutes, it may not be the moment. If you're having a particularly rough day where your ability to stay neutral and say, this is like washing the dishes, I have no feelings about it, I'm just prompting you to come over here, I have no anger, I have no resentment, I'm being completely emotionally neutral. If you are not in a space where you can do that, today is not the day to do a no prompt. And physically, it's very challenging, because sometimes, a lot of times, it's a thing where you have to be able to physically move the child over. If you have slipped a disc and your back is out and you cannot physically prompt them to do something and prevent them from escaping to do other things, or to keep them safe because they're going to start to, have a reaction to this. When they realize the first time, I'm not getting out of it, it's like a showdown, right? We're going to keep doing it, and I'm going to stay emotionally neutral. And physically, there's one episode of the A Word that we're going to see in a little while, where we see the therapist doing this, and the child, I swear, they become octopi. They sprout legs that they didn't know they had, and they don't want to do it. And it's a little bit of a just, keeping doing it and staying emotionally neutral until the child finally realizes, it's a lot easier just to do it, and then I get rewarded. But sometimes you have to wait them out. Haven't you ever been in an obstinate mood and you're like, I know I should do that, but I don't want to, right? Our kids are like that, and we have to be patient with them. We don't get angry. Maybe inside you're feeling a whole lot of things, but none of it's showing in your physicality, in your face. Nothing's happening. So really important when you're doing a no-no prompt that you make sure that you're in a space that you're ready to carry it out. And you've got to be completely calm and neutral. There is no judgment. It is not a fight. You're not manhandling the child. It's just, oh, we're going to keep doing this, and we're going to keep doing this. And, it's very loving and gentle. And each time that you bring them over, that's coming over. Good job. And then you go back. We'll try it again until they do it on their own. And then it's the party. Party, party, party. Okay, that's the no-no prompt for kids who have already attained some compliance, that are just having that obstinate thing that they will do. Compliance, so important.